Hello and welcome back in this very awesome requested video by Mr. Muhammad Faith Azhar. So he requested this Honda K24A1 inline 4 engine made by Honda and used in their in a lot of their vehicles actually, like the Accord, the Civic, the Element, the CRV, and other Acura vehicles as well. But before we start with the specs, I would love to give a shout out to my good friend, the Self Love, which I'm gonna put her YouTube channel link in the description below, so you can watch all of her videos because I promise you will love them. Her videos are about motivating. She is a beautiful motivator and she's a therapist as well, and she posts those amazing motivating videos about how to be a better person and how to understand the way the feelings actually work and how you should deal with them in your daily driving and in your daily life, not daily driving, in your daily life, and how to be a better person every day and every single day. So yes, watch her videos. Hit that thumbs up for her, get subscribed in her channel, and I promise you will like all of her videos. She is a very beautiful and very educated and well thought out person. Alright, so let's start with the specs for this engine. So we have, as you can see, let's start from the beginning. We have an inline 4 engine aluminium block, 87 millimeters on the bore, 99 millimeters on the stroke, which equals 2354 cc engine. Dual overhead camshaft with 4 valves per cylinder, aluminium head material with variable valve lift technology because this engine uses the VTEC technology. And we have, yes, let me explain something. I actually don't know the exact materials for the internals actually, but when I tried, because the stroke is too much, the bore is good, but the stroke is too much, 99 millimeters, which makes this engine has a long stroke, and a long stroke engine will not actually rev, or the RPM will not be that much high. And when I start making this engine, I've chosen like regular cast internals, and unfortunately because the official RPM limit for this engine is 6,500 RPM, the regular cast internals, they could not achieve even 5,900 RPM without exploding. And so if I want to use regular cast internals, I have to push the quality to plus 15 quality, which was not really acceptable because it will push the engineering time and the production unit to the max, which I don't want, because this is a mass-produced engine, and no, I'm not gonna make this engine to be like a very custom engine because it's not. So instead, I've chosen these forged internal materials so I can make the engine with the official RPM and the official power and torque figures. Alright, so let's move on. We have 9.6 to 1 is the official compression ratio for this engine, for this version indeed. 41 on the cam profile, and the VVT, or the VVL profile is 61 with variable valve timing on all cams, like the real engine. The +1 quality on the camshafts and everything related to them. Naturally aspirated, of course, with multi-point fuel injection or EFI, single throttle body, standard intake manifold, and we have to use regular 91 octane fuel because, as we all know, nearly all of the Honda engines uses 91 octane fuel engine, and I want to make it as real as possible. The 13.7 is the air-fuel ratio with 68 on the ignition timing, and as I said before, the official RPM is 6,500. Zero quality, and I'm using short cast header, single exhaust pipe, 2.5-inch exhaust diameter with 3-way catalytic converter, and a reverse flow first muffler and a straight through second muffler with zero quality on the exhaust. The result, or the final result, is 160 horsepower at 6,500 RPM, like the real engine, 160 pound-feet of torque at 3,900 RPM, nearly or close to the real deal, or to the real engine. The engine is reliable, as you can see, 70.7 points. Service cost is low, like the real engine. Lightweight, like the real engine. Engineering time is very acceptable, and the production unit are 36, which is amazing because this is a very mass-produced engine, and 36 is perfect for this category. The emissions are acceptable, good, not bad at all. 123 points for the emissions. I'm using nearly all the available octane. The engine economy is acceptable. It's good actually. It's not bad. 20%. 22.7, that's good. It's not bad at all. The engine smoothness, it's not really a smooth, or it's not really a strong point for this engine, but it's not bad. And throttle response is very good actually. The engine is quiet with a hint of sporty noise to it. Alright, so let's fire it up. Let me show you the internals. These forged internals, they look amazing. I love them in the inline 4 configuration because you can look at them, especially with 4 valves per cylinder, because the pistons will be curved perfectly to match the 4 valves. And with this inline setup, they look absolutely magnificent. Let's fire it up. As you can see, it idles very good, and it's making 121 pound-feet of torque at idle. That's good. So as you can see, the engine is very reliable, and it's actually a tuner friendly engine. It's actually a tuner friendly engine because I was reading specific information about this engine and how the tuner loves this engine because it can actually go plus 500 horsepower and on the stock internals because they are very strong. So basically, like, you can change everything around the stock internals and you can basically push it plus 500 horsepower, which is really good. That's awesome. I mean, a stock engine, and usually, as we all know and as we all like see on YouTube videos, like regular Honda Civic engines, you know, these tiny one like 1.4, 1.6 liter, you know, these tiny Honda engines, we see those like with racers or people that don't know how to tune the engines, exploding, catching on fire, and yeah. But this engine is actually a very cool engine, and tuners or Honda enthusiasts, they love this engine so much. The K24A1, the A1 actually, it's the basic version of the K24 because the K24 came with A2, A3, and I don't know, A4 maybe, but the A2 and the A3, these are really interesting versions because they changed the internals, they raised the compression ratio to 10.5 to 1, and they put more aggressive camshafts, different exhaust system, different intake system, push the power to 200 horsepower, even 250 horsepower in some cases. So that's why it's a very tuner friendly engine. So since we saw the stock version, let's exit out and make a clone of the engine and modify it. So this is the stock one, clone. Here you go. So we have another clone with all the original specs. Nothing has changed. And as always, I would love to start with the exhaust system because, as you can see, this is not stock. I'm gonna call it tuned. All right. So this is tuned. As you can see, the exhaust is restrictive. I mean, the exhaust system itself is restricting the airflow, and the headers as well, they are restricting. So we need to change that. And you can actually make a decent amount of power just by changing the exhaust system. That's it. If you want to keep the engine stock and reliable as possible, you can change the exhaust system on your car if you have this engine, and you will. This is it, job done. You have extra power with an easy mod you can do, like an aftermarket kit. And there are a lot of aftermarket kits for these engines, especially if you are ordering from Japan. So let's start with like aftermarket tubular header. As you can see, by changing the header alone, we gained extra 7 horsepower and extra 4 pound-feet of torque on the same exhaust system, the same pipes, the same everything. But we need to change that as well. So let's change also the catalytic converter from a regular 3-way into a high-flow 3-way catalytic converter. And that will push the power even more. So far we gained 12 extra horsepower and 7 extra pound-feet of torque just by replacing the headers, and of course the header, and the high flow and the catalytic converter with a high flow 3-way. Change the first muffler into a straight through muffler, and that gives you 180 horsepower, 20 extra horsepower, my friend. Yes, 20 extra horsepower. And as you can see, the headers actually are still restricting, so you can actually go with like a long tubular or a very custom made racing tubular. But let's start with a regular kit for a start. No need to push it to the max from the start, right? Because probably you saved a little bit of money, and this is just an enough a good mod to start with and to live with for now. You can actually put a, let's say, a bigger exhaust diameter, maybe. No, it will work perfect on 2.5 inch. Yeah, let's say that you put like, because it's aftermarket kit, so +5 quality on these aftermarket kits. So you have 184 horsepower, extra 24 horsepower just by replacing a muffler and a catalytic converter, and of course different header. So let's fire up this beast and listen to it with the new exhaust system. It definitely sounds louder and much more clear, and the power is, oh, it's amazing, like 23.6 extra horsepower and 8 extra pound-feet of torque. That's amazing just by replacing some parts of the engine. So the next step is, of course, to tweak the engine. Like, let's say that you saved a little bit of money and you want to tweak the ECU, you want to tune the ECU to produce more power and torque. And basically tweaking the ECU is just, the tuner will play with the air-fuel ratio and the ignition timing, and he will maybe raise the RPM limit if the engine can take it. Alright, so let's start by adding extra ignition timing. Let's see by how much. So basically you can go with like 73. You can actually add a little bit of fuel in. Alright, that's good. So basically what we did here is adding more ignition in, which resulted in more power, more torque, and of course the torque can now peak a little bit later, which is good. And since the internals can actually take, like the connecting rods can take all the way to 6,800, so let's raise it by, okay, so we can go actually to 6,800, which is good, which is very good. No problems, as you can see, nothing to report. That's cool. Right, so now we have we gained extra, so far from the stock engine we gained extra 28 horsepower and still 8 pound-feet of torque, but now the torque can keep on going a little bit later, which is good, and we gained extra 300 RPM. So let's listen to the engine. What I really love about this engine, specifically about this engine, because usually all of the other engines, like the Redline or the Redline of the engines, like for example, usually the power will peak at, for example, at 6,300 RPM. For example, the power will peak here, the power will stop here, and this extra bit of RPM, this is just empty. They will put a red line here on the RPM gauge. So this is basically, there is no more power here. You will actually lose power if you go all the way to the red line, right? Basically, this is all of the engines on Earth. But what I love what I really love about this engine, that the official RPM limit is 6,500 RPM, and the power will peak at 6,500 RPM, same as the Redline. And that's what I really like. I mean, some people will tell you, oh, that means I'm gonna spend all my life driving this engine on the Redline. Well, why would you want to drive your engine on the Redline? I know that maybe you will say to me that, yeah, because I want all of the power. I mean, yes, you can use all the power even if you can go to the Redline, because this engine can actually take this amount of RPM without exploding. So don't worry, if your engine has been serviced well and no problems, no check engine light, nothing, you can rev that much, but not always, of course, because you don't want to blow up the engine at the end. You don't want to abuse it, but you can actually use this. You can actually use the power even if you have the power at the top end. You don't usually, because we don't race every day. Basically, these kind of engines, they are used in daily driving cars. This, as I said, the CRV, the Accord, the Element. These cars are not racing cars. These cars usually are driven like from 1000 rpm, let's say to 3000 rpm. This is basically the daily range of power. So from 24 horsepower to, like, let's say 90 horsepower. That's it. 91, 92 horsepower. That's it. What you are using every day. And the torque starts from 128, 127, let's say, to 160, for example. That's your daily range. And basically, when you want all of the power, I promise you this. Like, usually, even me myself, when I want like more power, when I want to accelerate hard, I'm not gonna push the engine all the way to the max, because usually these cars will come with automatic gearbox, like the Element. I don't know, maybe the CRV. I don't know actually, but I think the Element comes with an automatic gearbox. So yeah. So basically, no, you're gonna like push it, even if you put your foot down, like you're gonna push it what, to 6000 rpm. That's it. You're not the the ECU or the gearbox will not allow it to redline the engine. It will shift earlier if you have an automatic gearbox. But if you have manual, well, it's your own responsibility if you want to blow up the gearbox or the engine. But usually these engines will not blow up. These engines are really, and I mean really reliable. Honda engines, I mean, they will live forever if you don't abuse them, of course. So yes, don't worry. I mean, this is what I really love about this engine, because it can take the RPM no problem, nothing to report. And that's why the tuners or car enthusiasts or Honda enthusiasts, this is why they love this engine, because it can take a lot of abuse, and it can survive under a lot of pressure and a lot of power gains, since like we are seeing right now. I know the video is taking so long, but don't worry, this is very important, especially for this engine. Alright, so the next step is, of course, to upgrade your intake system. And I've seen kits on Amazon for this engine, Amazon and eBay as well, like individual throttle bodies, or like specially custom made intake manifold. So I'm gonna call these custom made ones performance intake manifolds, because they basically look like this. Longer runners, bigger intake manifold. You have to put a bigger throttle body. As you can see, the developers, they made a mistake here. Check out the alignment on the throttle body and the intake manifold. They are not aligned at all, as you can see. They need to fix that. So yes, you can purchase these intake manifold with, of course, the new airbox, new air filter, and the engine is knocking, so you need to like pull out a little bit or pull off a little bit of the meshing, and you have 190 horsepower. That's good on 170 pound-feet of torque. And listen to that. Yes. The engine sound absolutely beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. Sounds really deep, and you can hear the induction, you can hear the exhaust. Now this is a truly good performance engine. Not high performance, not yet, but it has a good performance engine, because it's not tiny. I mean, if this engine was like a 2-liter engine, 1.8 liter engine, and with this amount of horsepower, yeah, now that will be a high performance engine. But a 2.4 liter engine with 190 horsepower, it's good. It's very good. It's not bad. It's very good actually, but not a high performance engine, not yet, because we are still using the regular or the stock camshafts, which makes the engine still an eco-friendly engine, not a high performance engine. Alright, so right now we have tweaked the intake, the exhaust, the ECU, and now it's time to change the camshaft. So let's say like you bought, let's say you went online, or you went to a junkyard actually, and bought the camshaft from the K24A2 version or the A3 version, because basically they are the same engine but with different cylinder head and different camshaft and cam gears, I think, maybe. So basically you bought those, and you went back home, or you went back to the shop, and you started bolting them on. And basically, those camshafts from the A2 and the A3 versions, they are much more aggressive versions of this engine. So let's start going like more aggressive. And since we are tweaking the engine, it's time actually to go with 95 octane fuel, so you can have that extra headroom of safety without blowing up the engine. So let's go like mental and see what's what. So basically we are losing torque right now. I don't want to lose so much torque. So let's start. I want to keep the engine economical, and I want to push it. And I mean, I want to really push it as hard as possible. But don't worry, since we are, I mean, so far it's so good actually. But you know what I want to do in the next. I want to turbocharge it. And even if you have to pay the cost of losing a little bit of torque for the quest of power, I'm gonna pay that bill. I mean, check this one out, like 200 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. Yes, we have lost a little bit of torque, but the torque can now keep on going to 5,100 RPM. So yeah, some of you will say, no, just drop the power a little bit so you can get more torque. And some people will say, no, we want more power, screw the torque. So it's up to you, it's up to the tuner which camshaft profile he wants to use. And as you can see, I've chosen like 34 on the cam profile, which is tiny. It will make the camshafts tiny, but the VVL profile, yes, it's an aggressive profile. I mean, it will change the character of the engine. It will start regular, torquey, eco-friendly, and then let's say at like 4,000 RPM, VVL will kick in, or the VTEC will kick in, and check this out. Extreme amount of power. Now 200 horsepower, we are very close to a high performance engine, really close. So since we have an extra headroom in the octane, let's go mental with the ignition, maxed out 100% or 100 on the ignition timing. That's very good. So we have 203 horsepower. Now you can actually, if you want to make your engine efficient, you can pull like a little bit of fuel out, like to 14. And this way you will have an efficient engine. You'll still have 200 horsepower, 201, but this way you'll check out the fuel efficiency, 22.4. That means your engine is more powerful than before, more torquey than before, and more efficient than before. Now let's fire it up. It sounds like a diesel now. Now that's amazing. The sound, wow, and the power, just perfection with, of course, the new fuel economic value here. It's very good. Alright, so basically the engine is perfect right now, and you can actually move on to turbocharge it if you want more power. But if you want to settle, 200 horsepower is just perfect for a naturally aspirated version of this engine. Really good. I mean, the sound, the power, the torque, just perfection. And it's more efficient, so you will not pay and you will not fill the car up every 5 minutes. But yes, of course, you need to pay for 95 instead of 91. Of course, that's the cost of high performance parts and more ignition. Alright, so the next step is of actually, like, you can actually purchase throttle per cylinder or individual throttle per cylinder kits for this engine. They are available online. So let's say you bought this kit. You will gain extra 4 horsepower, you will lose actually a little bit of torque, but check out the throttle response from 58.1 to 68.2, extra 10%, extra 10% of increase in in throttle response. That's amazing. Yes, the fuel efficiency will drop a little bit, and yes, you will lose a little bit more octane. But that is amazing gain. And check out the weight of the engine. The engine actually will get lighter because as I don't actually know why. Let me check why. Let's go step by step. We used to have a single throttle body here, but now we have four, but four small ones, not a big one here. Four tiny ones, and that I think this intake manifold is lighter than the single one, but still the same airbox. But as it's showing here, the engine is actually more lighter than before, which is good. Lightweight will give you better acceleration, better handling, better everything. So it's a perfect upgrade. Absolute perfection. Really good. Really good. Alright, so you know now what's the next step is. Actually, no, before we go to the next step, because we left the exhaust system unattended for a long time, so we need to tweak it as well. So let's put on a long tubular header and check out the difference in power. Extra 15 horsepower, my friend. Sorry, not 15, extra 10 horsepower. But the torque from 164 to 175, I totally forgot about the exhaust system. Wow, that's really good. Long tubular header, let's say a bigger exhaust diameter, 2.8 inch. But since we are going mental here, let's go with a very custom race tubular header. Like a fabricator will make this for you, no problem. And check it out, 227 horsepower. Now this is a high performance engine. This is a high performance one. But before we go anywhere, let me check the cam profile. Make sure that it's perfect. All right. If I want to make it smooth, I would set it to 60 or 65. That will make the curve really smooth. But if I want my engine to be efficient, I can go with 25. So as you can see now, the curve will look a little bit different because 25 to 83 now, this is a huge difference here. But this way you will get more fuel efficiency, as you can see. Yes, and the engine will get smoother because with a tiny camshaft profile that will make the engine more smooth and more torquey at the low end. So as you can see, you have 139 pound-feet of torque at idle. The engine will start efficient and economical all the way to 3,700 RPM, and then hell will break loose. And yes, check it out. So I actually prefer this way. Some tuners will prefer a smooth curve, but I prefer this way because you will have like two engines in one engine. An economical, efficient, torquey engine for a daily driving car like this. This is a perfect range for a daily driving car, and a high performance beast at high RPM in one engine. That's perfect. Absolute perfection. Now you know what I'm gonna do. After we did absolutely everything possible to this engine, it's time to turbocharge it to make it as beastly as possible. So since we are going to turbocharging, let's increase the fuel a little bit, drop the ignition time like all the way to 0 so we can have an extra extra headroom of safety, turbocharging, ball bearing, yes, let's say 500 horsepower, let's say that, and drop it to 10 psi as a start. Drop the turbine size because it's not necessary, like to 40, let's say not all the way to the rear up to the max. Drop the compressor size to 50, increase the air ratio to the max, and now we can actually start to tweak the engine to make it perfect. Like, let's see, what should we do? Intercooler is good. Turbine, so this is basically starts at 2600 RPM. Ignition timing, we need ignition, give me ignition. Oh, we need more fuel. So this is your call actually. If you want to go with like a little bit more fuel in. 3-inch exhaust diameter, that's good. 95 octane fuel isn't enough actually, because if you want to turbocharge this engine, it will be more assuring actually if you can go with super 98 octane fuel. Don't worry, it's available in a lot of countries, and since we are going with turbocharging, you need to increase the quality and replace the fuel injectors, of course, and the fuel rail, and basically everything related to fuel, so you can keep a decent supply of fuel to the engine so you don't blow it up. Alright, so we have 36 on the ignition timing, and 293 horsepower. Yes, that's good, but not enough. Not enough indeed. 303 horsepower. I think basically maybe I have chosen, when I made this engine, I think I have chosen like the wrong forged internals, because I mean, check it out. I mean, the crankshaft can go to 7,500, the pistons to 7,100, but the connecting rods can go only to 6,800. So I think because heavy duty forged, that means I don't know which one, the H or the I. Which one of these? Is it the H? Yes, this one, the H-shaped cross. The heavy duty, the lightweight forged. This will give you, I think, the I shape. Where is it? The connecting rods. Here we go. Alright, the connecting rods, giving it an I-shaped cross section. Alright, so I think the I, they call them the I-beam. So basically these ones can rev higher. So let's go with like 7,000 RPM. That's good now. 7,000 RPM is perfect. And you can actually find like aftermarket kits, forged pistons and everything for this engine, so you can push it to 500 horsepower and even more. Like let's say lightweight forged pistons. Oh no, I'm not gonna go with titanium now. That's idiotic. So if you want to open the engine, like let's say 7,300, put a little bit of fuel in. Is it worth it? I think so, yeah. But no, I'm not gonna change the pistons. I'm gonna keep the engine original, so forged pistons as they used to be. But I think they used lightweight forged. I think so, because yes, I've seen like reports, or maybe they have chosen a heavy duty edge shaped, edge crossed, but like with high quality, maybe forged internals, like +8 quality, maybe I don't know, because of course in real life they will not tell you how much quality they have put in, but still good. So 7,200, it's still good, it's not bad. Now let's get back to our turbo, because I need to make the engine powerful. So +5 quality here, +5 quality there, +5 quality on the camshafts, and this is +8 quality, I know. So I think they can push the engine like to 500 horsepower in real life, you know, but with a really massive turbo, and I think with like racing fuel, not regular pump fuel. So 316 horsepower, it's not bad. Like 13 on the air fuel ratio, or 12.5. That's too much fuel, but we can have like extra headroom. Let's see which one will give me more power, more ignition or more boost. From 60 to 65, it will give me like extra 3 horsepower, right? How about boost? Same. Alright, so since it's the same, 330 horsepower, that's good. As you can see, that so far, the turbo, I can go like mental with a big turbo, like so, 58.5, but it will kick at 3000 RPM, which is like really not efficient. I want to keep it efficient, like so, 3000 RPM. 340 horsepower, that's good, that's very good. I mean, I was really looking forward to push it to 500 horsepower, but I don't want to push it to the ultimate 100 octane fuel. But because can you imagine a Honda Element with a racing fuel in it? Now that's just hideous. I mean, yes, I know I'm sacrificing like in fuel efficiency for the purpose of power, but it's a good cause. It's a very good cause. Now let's see how much mental we can go with the camshaft profile. We can go with like 93. Alright, 93. Sometimes it's not easy actually to tweak an engine to perfection. I want 350 horsepower, so that's my last guess. So 350 horsepower, 363, just by increasing the exhaust size. Oh my god, I think 3.5 inch is good, because 3.8 inch now, this is too much, I think. Really too much. No. There's no point actually of increasing it more. So basically the engine right now is just perfect. What do you think? Do you like the engine right now? I mean, +5 quality, this is basically like regular aftermarket parts. I'm not putting really freakishly expensive parts now. These are regular parts that you can find them online. Since we have extra headroom here, let's push the boost a little bit, like to 11.3 psi. That will give me 370 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque. Now that's perfect. Sorry it took so long. What an absolute masterpiece. Really good. I mean, this engine right now, remember we started in live with 160 horsepower, 160 pound-feet of torque. Now we have 370 horsepower and 272 pound-feet of torque. So we actually gained 112 pound-feet of torque and 210 horsepower. 210 horsepower, now that is a massive gain, really massive. And yes, the engine is it's consuming a little bit more fuel in, and we are using 98 octane instead of 91. The engine is actually cleaner than before, I think, maybe not. And yes, it's a little bit heavier than before. It's still reliable. It's not bad at all. It's quiet. It's not really a racing engine. It's very responsive, and It's perfect. I really love this engine, and 370 horsepower. Can you imagine a 370 horsepower in a Honda Element or a Honda CR-V? I mean, it will fly. It will be a massive increase in power. It will be the car will be amazing. And yes, you can actually do it because like a lot of countries like around the world, they serve or they sell 98 octane fuel. So yes, you can do that. It's achievable, and you can remove like a muffler. No need to use two mufflers. A single muffler in the rear, that will be enough. You can actually gain more power this way. It will sound much more loud, but not by much actually. Perfect. So thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad Faith Azhar, for your amazing request, and thank you so much, guys, for watching. And please remember, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, get subscribed if you are new, and share the video if you want to share it. And keep requesting engines and cars, and I'm gonna do what I can of these requests. And I apologize if I'm not making like if you request an engine and I didn't make it. Just remind me, maybe I forgot about it, maybe I'm busy or something. Just remind me if I don't do your request. And remember to check out my friend's YouTube channel. I'm gonna put the link in the description below. Press it, enjoy watching all her videos, and enjoy watching all my previous videos as well. So thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you very soon with more cool requests and more, and goodbye for now, my friends.